Don't be afraid to take a dip into today's show. We're talking swimming lessons. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Marriott Resort at Grand Dunes. We're focused on a Carolina author, and she's right here with us, Mary Alice Monroe. Good morning, Mary Alice.
It's wonderful to be here.
I love a double-named woman. My daughter is Emma Claire, so it means a lot to me to be with somebody who feels comfortable. And when someone calls you Mary, you slowly take it in. It's Mary Alice.
It's Mary Alice.
That's right.
It's all one word. Mary Alice.
That's fantastic. Mary Alice Monroe. Ma'am, that flows well. And M.A.M., have you ever signed anything that way?
No, but I think when I'm a grandmother, I want my grandchildren to call me ma'am.
Aha, yes, yes. They'll never forget it.
Everyone will think I have very polite grandchildren.
They won't know. I love it. And you are a Carolina author. You live in the Palmetto State or the Tar Heel?
I live on Isle of Palms,
Great.
Right outside Charleston, and that's been my home for a while. And I'm a turtle lady on the Isle of Palms.
A turtle lady?
A turtle lady. My husband always cringes when I say that.
Yeah, I bet he does. That's right.
We crawl around.
Honey, we don't have to share that with others. Yeah. A turtle lady?
Everyone
on
the coast knows what a turtle lady is. That's the name that they give the women and men. Now there are men as well who tend the nests for our loggerhead sea turtle.
Yes.
We have North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and of course Florida's the Mecca, where hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of loggerhead sea turtles come ashore every May. And they nest through October. When the last hatchlings leave, we're just finishing the season now.
Really?
And our job is to monitor the nests and to move them if they need to be moved, and to just generally take care of them.
And this is, of course, there are other turtle ladies, so you can come away like you did last week to be up here for the South Carolina Writers Workshop.
Oh, yes, we're done now. The last nest on Sullivan's Island, we do Sullivan's Island, Dewey's, and Isle of Palms, and the last nest is completed. And I think all along the southern coast, we should be finished. There might be one or two little ones left, but it's October. We're done.
Yeah. Do you ever travel to other communities and help them through that?
You know, as an author, my book, the book that I wrote called The Beach House, that is jokingly called by the women and men who take care of turtles the training manual. And it's been a real pleasure for me it's a novel. I'm a storyteller first.
Right, yes.
So people read my books to read about family relationships. In Beach House was a mother-daughter relationship. But the backdrop was the sea turtle nesting saga.
Is that right?
So when you finished the story and you closed it, you thought, gee, I learned something about turtles too. So when you asked if I travel, when I do book signings, I go all along. I come to Myrtle Beach, to Surfside, all up and down the coast, and my readers come and we talk turtle. And they love all my books, but I think the turtles books are special.
How exciting. You mentioned yourself as a storyteller. Had you been a storyteller prior to getting pen to paper or getting hand to keyboard?
I found for most authors, there are two kinds of authors. There are those that were born, wrote ever since they were little, and those that came to it later in life. And one is not necessarily better than the other. But I just fall in the category I wrote all my life. When I was a little girl, and I'm one of 10 children.
You're kidding.
No, I'm third eldest of 10. So one of my jobs was to put the little brothers and sisters to sleep. So I would sing songs and make up stories, and we would have plays. My brothers and sisters and I some would paint, some would play the musical instruments, and I would write, and we would put on shows all the time.
Wow.
So when I got grown up, I started writing nonfiction. And that's another world. As you know, nonfiction is very different than fiction. And I know what you're going to be curious about. It wasn't until I was pregnant with my third child, and the doctor put me to bed for months. I think I went to bed in July, and Zachary was born in the end of October.
Your third and last child?
My third and last child. And I was lying prone. And my husband, who's a psychiatrist...
He's really great.
He said to me, he took away the TV, and I could have killed him because I was going to be in bed for months.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, Mary Alice, for as long as I've known you, you've wanted to write a novel. You didn't have the time.
Right.
Now's your time. So I had to lie prone. I couldn't even sit up. I had a yellow pad and a pencil. And I wrote my first novel on my back.
Oh, no.
And I want to tell you, that novel was published. So I tell women and men everywhere, if you're in bed rest,
right.
Or in the hospital for a while, take advantage of that time. Use it as an opportunity. It got me jump-started in my career as a novelist.
Now, what was it, I'm sure a lot of folks would know prior to that, prior to being on bed rest, what was it that you were so busy with that you couldn't put pen to paper?
Well, you're going to laugh. I wrote nonfiction for a while, and then I detoured and studied Japanese. I'm bilingual, Japanese-English.
Oh, really?
And
we had a Japanese teacher last Tuesday who spent 3 years in Japan, a young woman from Myrtle Beach who was there teaching English in
I would
Japan.
love to spend 3 years in Japan again.
Oh,
I stayed there when I was young and came back and did my graduate degree in Japanese. I sort of did a full circle.
Really?
So somewhere I know there's a Japanese novel.
Well, with this being Turtle Summer being number 12, is that right?
Yes.
You got how much more time? How do you
Well, they're
find
like
the time
planes,
now?
going off. But Turtle Summer, I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
When I wrote, let me just hold this up.
Sure.
Swimming lessons, because the color coordinated.
Oh yeah, actually, I'll get that up so that folks, you go ahead and talk.
It's a great story. The story of how Turtle Summer came about. This was my novel. It's the sequel to The Beach House. And I had thought I'd said everything I wanted to say about turtles with The Beach House.
Right.
But my friend Barbara Bergwerf, who's the photographer, said, Mary Alice, we're rehabilitating 6 sea turtles and injured sea turtles at the aquarium. Come on in. So I did, and I scrubbed leeches and barnacles, and I really worked with them. That's why I always do my research hands-on. Right. And I wrote the sequel to The Beach House. And while I was writing it, this young mother who's a turtle lady takes her young daughter out every morning tending turtles. Right. And I realized she makes this scrapbook journal for her daughter with photographs and illustrations. And all of a sudden I said, that's the book I want to write for children everywhere.
Oh, boy.
And that's how Turtle Summer came about. It's my first children's book, and it's up for a lot of awards. And it's just a book I wrote with accurate photographs so that the tale of a mother and a daughter through the whole, tending turtles through the whole season of the turtles from May till October, every day. It's a beautiful story for mothers and daughters and grandmothers.
Now, you mentioned Zachary. That's a boy. You actually have a daughter.
I have a daughter.
Good. I didn't. And you may have mentioned that. Forgive me. I was so focused on the book.
That's my daughter, Greta, who actually looks a lot like this little girl on the cover.
Right? That's
but now
right.
She's a big girl.
Yeah.
And she works for the Coastal Conservation League.
Oh, great.
So she's working for the environment.
She stayed in the Palmetto State, or?
Oh, yes. She'll never leave.
Oh, listen to that. Oh, come on now,
No,
Mary Alice. Your mother probably said the same thing.
No.
She'd never leave wherever you were.
No, my daughter kiteboards and surfs, and she's an environmentalist, and she won't even date a boy if he doesn't stay by the water.
And your boys? Yeah.
And Zachary, the baby who came forth with my first book, is now 21 years old.
Well, congratulations. Wow, you've kept your youth very well. Yeah. Did he ever use ma'am? Yeah. That's right. You're waiting for grandchildren now to get
I am a grandmother
out.
in training.
Yeah. It's for the ma'ams. I love it. I love it. Well, this is a beautiful and, of course, a great cover. All of them have these tremendous colors, much like your shawl there.
They're beach colors, I think. And I really am so proud of this book because I want to show the young children today, they're the stewards of tomorrow, how to not just know nature, but to feel nature.
Right.
And if we can hook these young kids, they will grow up to take care of this planet, and it's our turn now to take care of it for them.
The low country of South Carolina has churned out some tremendous writers.
Yes, it has.
We think about, of course, Pat Conroy. I guess a lot of folks do. Is it Dorothy?
Dorothy Benton Frank is another great author.
Yourself. And there's one other that's sticking in my mind.
Patty Callahan Henry. And, of course, Anne River Siddons is an icon.
Oh, yes, of course.
There's some really wonderful, wonderful authors. And Marjorie Wentworth, who's the poet laureate of South Carolina, is a good friend of mine. And I am in awe of her talent. I just think that right now it's almost like a Southern Renaissance, Charleston Renaissance all over again.
Well, we need to get more of that up to the Strand here. Thank you. Cassandra King. That's it. That's exactly right. That was the fourth of many that I was thinking about. But we need to bring some of that up this way, other than just coming up to see the turtles.
Well, for this writers' conference, we're having a good bunch of great
This past
Southern
weekend,
authors.
you all had a tremendous crowd.
We had a great crowd.
You were the featured speaker last Friday, was it? Yeah.
I spoke for the keynote, and it was a great opportunity for me not only to meet new writers, but some old friends as well.
Oh, yeah.
And my agent and my editor came in from New York, which was fun.
Wow.
So it was a great time. And it was an honor for me because this is my home state, to be selected to keynote
Absolutely.
For this conference.
And Mary Edie and so many other folks who worked so hard year after year. A number of years ago, we filmed at the Wordsmith Inc. when she brought some amazing folks in from all over the country, folks from Southern California and from the Midwest who really were inspiring.
Conference.
Absolutely.
It is, and it's a real pleasure for me to have been part of it.
Do you ever find that your husband, who's probably not thought of as a storyteller, is a listener? Obviously, as a psychiatrist, a listener. Do you ever find any good stories coming out of him? Or?
You know what? I think having a psychiatrist as a husband is a bonus.
Yeah.
Because I'll work out plot or character issues, and I'll say, because everyone is a little off a little bit, or half my characters have a little problem.
Right.
So I'll discuss it with him, especially the children, because he specializes in children.
Does he really? Good.
And actually, what's more fun is I'll be reading a passage to him, and I'll say, listen to this, and does it sound real? And a man would never say that. And then I like to say, but my character would say that.
Yeah, my character will say that. And you're going to read it when you see the manuscript.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think we have to try and make the characters real, but they're not him either. Otherwise, all my characters would be my husband.
No, that's right. So oftentimes folks hear these phrases like, there's a book in you, and
yes.
Is there a book in everybody, or is that, or are there books just in certain people?
That is a really good question. I think there's a book in everybody, but the question people have to ask themselves is, do I want to be published? A writer is a writer,
right.
whether they're published
it's a journal
or not.
Right.
And I think that's really important to remember. There's a lot of people out there who are writing novels who haven't had a chance to get published. It's hard to cross that line.
Yeah,
but you still hold your head up high and acknowledge, I am a writer.
Good, yeah.
And a lot of women and men want to write their memoirs. And I say to them, please do, because that's a lost art. And I'm glad to see a resurgence happening again, because people say, where do I begin? Begin with a day. Pick a date in your life and tell us what happened on that day. Because at least your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren are going to treasure this tome.
You mentioned that my grandfather took a diary every Sunday. After lunch, he would fill out a diary for 50-some years, from the 20s into right as his death in the early 70s. And it was 35 years later before someone actually took the time to transcribe it, to type it in for the Perkins Library. And it has been fascinating. As you say, just making that commitment, whether you publish it, just getting pen to paper.
I do, and I think a lot of people are confused to where do I begin?
Right.
Just, like I said, pick a date, just start. Or, January 1st, 1951. What did you do that year?
Right.
Well, where were you on that day? Did you have a family reunion? Describe and as you describe it, and write it down, I think people are surprised at how memory comes back. And think of the historical data we're sharing. Your grandfather.
Oh, yeah, sure. Are these books in your head, Mary Alice? I mean, are you at a point where you just can't get it down fast enough, or you grab a tape recorder, I've got to get this out, this is a brilliant idea, or do you just know that, Lord, I've done 12, I can get, or 13 or 14, I can get another few out, no hurry?
No, I have so many ideas that I worry about time. I wish I could write faster.
Yeah.
My mandate for myself is to write about the South Carolina landscape and the North Carolina the southern landscape.
Yes.
Because they're indigenous species that are endangered. And I find that by paralleling nature and human nature, I can draw metaphors that are so much more rich. I finished a book on fly fishing. And you think, well, how is that about nature? Well, it's really about a breast cancer survivor. And I put her in a sanctuary of sorts in the mountains of North Carolina. And she's a survivor, and she's wondering, what does it mean to survive? And her fishing is not about catching a fish, but people are going to relate to the tenuous line connection to the water, to nature, to other people, to finally her own self and her body that she thought betrayed her. We all feel this disconnect.